It's the weekly 30/30 trading list on ASX. We're reviewing the 30 best momentum companies over the last quarter, and then we're looking at those that have had the best improvement in their momentum in the last week, what we call the launchpad. Gary Glover has been through both lists, and he's pulling out the best shares, the ones that have the best setups, and he's also pulling out some thematics and other large macro understandings that he can pull from this data. So with that pressure and those insights, we say good morning, Gary Glover. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, Chris.
So what insights did you pull from this week's data?
There's probably a few lithium and graphite names in the weekly list, so that was sort of interesting. Still a couple of gold names in there as well, so some sort of smaller ones there. So we're still seeing a emergence of a few gold names, sort of, so we've had gold, I think gold in lists for probably 4 weeks in a row now. So other than that, there's probably a few sort of mature stocks that have been running in the face of selling. So our leaders have been leading, have been sort of continuing to do so. So, but yeah, it's interesting timing. Sort of, for me, it sort of feels like we're kind of getting close here to a bit of a low here. So I saw Ropal and Minervini basically just saying, this is when you do your work, sort of, and you're kind of waiting for, whether you're waiting for a follow-through day or waiting for some sort of sign here of a return here, change of character. So market's getting sort of compressed here, getting pushed down here. So just see sort of a few interesting stocks in the States. They're starting to actually break up. Saw Spotify actually was one that actually did catch my eye. Nice sort of set up there, but there's others. So it's interesting time, man. So this is sort of, when the market's a bit weak like this, is always the time to be sort of doing extra homework there and trying to position there. So I kind of feel like I'm at a crossroads personally, because I'm long a few situational sort of stocks, like, sort of like I like a few of these golds here, so I long a few of those. But is that, like normally O'Neill's looking for the sort of strongest sort of stocks here, maybe the ones that, future earnings that they're going to shoot through here, but we're just going to respect what's sort of aiming up here, what's sort of showing strength there. So definitely had sort of golds there recently, and they've had a pretty good run as well. So so it's a interesting period here.
We'll just go over watching the crane go behind you, and somehow I think that's changing the shifting on your camera, but it'll be what it'll be, and we'll move to the charts, and hopefully they'll be the most entertaining part of the conversation. So if you look at the quarterly momentum list, what's caught your eye this week?
Yeah, so obviously the scores aren't too high because we're sort of pretty negative market there. So I think number 3 was sort of interesting there. That's the one that's sort of been pretty robust there. The one that's really just, going up impulsively, going sideways, in a correctional manner, and then rallying sort of, rallying impulsive and then corrective decline and then impulsive corrective here. So still sort of those sort of signs there. Maybe go through another little sideways, suggestion there. Probably just going to see how it holds above the old high there. But that stock is still sort of building there, so nothing too negative there yet. I think number 5 on the list, BIT, it's had a pretty nice little pop there. Has sort of wound back a bit here, a bit of an overbalance there. But you've seen some of these, kind of reattempt here, so probably just going for a bit of a pause here at the moment. So just wanted to sort of keep an eye on. BNR, get one of those stocks that sort of popped here, some good volume there, pulling back a lot of volume, sort of popping bigger volume, pulling back a lot of volume again, sort of building again. So then we saw another sort of, pretty decent, down day yesterday, and some pretty good volume there. So that still leaves it looking fairly robust here. So always got to watch these stocks that really sort of jump out big volume early. So if they consolidate there, they can usually sort of, they're often the ones that sort of keep running there, Chris. XTE, having a little bit of a pause at the moment. Kind of, it's had a bit of an impulsive move. It's taken out some of the swing highs along the way here, so that sort of stops that sort of. There's a few stocks there. There's a few lithium plays there that have sort of rallied here versus the market, but are still on a downtrend. So they're just sort of more of a watch to see. Whereas XTE here actually has now broken above some old swing highs. So that's the sort of change in character there. So now you're looking for a sign of a congestion, a consolidation, and then looking for another leg up here. So that is definitely one to sort of be keeping an eye on there.
And is it important that it's congesting pretty high up within that range, so under the high, but congesting just alongside it?
Yeah, I mean, the more, the stronger they hold up there, the longer they sort of go sideways, the better, really. So, so that's pretty constructive there. I guess the good sign there so far is that we've had, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sort of days have gone sideways, and the last 6 days, the volume has been non-existent. So, so it's not, after a pop like that, you might expect to see a bit of a pullback. When they don't pull back here and they hold tight, no volume, it sort of shows there's not too much selling going on here. So that is usually sort of constructive. DXB was the one that's had a bit of a pop there on good volume. Has sort of eased back here, so you're probably waiting for it maybe consolidate that volume to sort of drop a bit more. Definitely one to sort of keep an eye on there. WC8 is probably one that I got wrong, Chris. I think when we sort of got up here, I think had this decent downward correction there. There's some pretty decent volume there, some pretty heavy selling. Did obviously had some news there and then gap back up again, but it's done a few overlapping there. So for me personally, I would have got a bit nervous in here. This is a bit negative, but this thing has sort of consolidated here, sort of held not sure if it held the lows in here or not. I don't
Maybe
really
only cut them.
Little false break, and then sort of held here, maybe breaking up through little B waves there. It's a hard one to chase here, but has incredibly strong here. So definitely want to be chasing here now, but the volume's still pretty robust there. So not showing too much weakness there. Other on the list, ASN, bit small here, had a bit of a rally here, but probably not really too much there. SXG, sort of one that's had a bit of an impulsive move here. Had like a little bit of a ABC, but nice sort of consolidation in there, and maybe a bit of a break here. The interesting sort of pattern here, Chris, is the sort of cup and handles here. This is sort of a pretty decent cup here. Now this is looking like a little tight handle here. We've got pretty good volume coming through here. Much as we saw a little bit of selling into that really big jump on good news, it's sort of held that pretty tight here now. It's only pushing through. So that's a big sort of cup and handle, which is in a normal market, it's a pretty bullish setup, really. So, the market was sort of raging away here. This is a sort of stock that normally gets, comes through this and kicks on here. So that's definitely one that looks pretty constructive there in what is a very weak market there. So, happens to be another gold stock, Chris, Southern Cross Gold. So, that was kind of mainly it there for the quarterly ones. There was a lot that sort of popped up here on news as well. So like a lot of them just sort of popped up here short term on news. So it's sort of hard to sort of trade on a single pop there. Looking through the weekly, there's sort of kind of look at what's happening in here. And I think the EGR actually is a really interesting one here. Sort of straight up here. So this is in that sort of graphite area. So I don't know if anyone looked at Syrah during the week. Syrah had a big jump as well, big pop here, but it's on the back of China. Well, there was an article in Barron's there about China withholding its graphite because obviously electric car sort of production is getting it is kicking up a gear and not enough graphite around. So the Chinese looks like they're going to hold on to their own graphite internally and not sort of sharing it around. So just meant that companies like Syrah stuff would obviously benefit because they're selling to everyone else. So So it's rather done with trying to deal with Tesla, there's graphite there, but just it does sort of does suggest it's a pretty interesting concept actually. I saw I think it's North Star. There's a bit of a commodity sort of guy there. He's been talking about this for quite a while. At, kind of more sort of on the back of after sort of COVID and maybe with the world that sort of conflict here is that people are going to sort of hoard their own commodities and keep them to themselves, and trying to get access to the world's commodities might be more and more difficult if we're all at tension with each other or all competing for them as well. So it was an interesting sort of theory there around that there might be a bit more scarcity with some resources that might cause another commodity boom here. And we do see that through inflationary times as well, that commodities do perform pretty well. So yeah, just getting access to the right commodities here could put some of these commodities in more in play here. So just, I thought it was interesting. You're just starting to sort of see some of the hallmarks of that. It was if you haven't seen that Syrah article, it's probably worth reading there about sort of graphite there. But it just sort of showed you that first stock there, number one, that's a graphite play here. So it's had a bit of a pop here on that sort of news there. So that's pretty interesting there. That's a big volume there early too. That's how often we'll sort of move in. And so now we've sort of broken a few little swing highs here. So I view that as a bit of a change in character. So that is definitely an interesting sector to keep an eye on.
Well, it does echo some things that we've talked about before, which is the geographies can be important for these commodities. And when Joe Biden came in and announced his critical minerals, a lot of the battery minerals, if we can classify them as that, they took off. But the ones that took off the most were the ones that had exposure to North America, either tenements in the United States, Canada, or very close by. And those companies outshone the domestic ones because it was a foothold into that supply chain. And that can be interesting, especially as you're mentioning COVID, decoupling of globalization, companies hoarding their resources like the Critical Minerals Acts.
Yeah.
So that, fortunately in Australia, we've got a lot of small cap miners that actually have international tenements. So like you said, it's having a look at companies and understanding what they do and having a little bit of a deeper look under the hood to know which companies you're investing in and then lining up the technicals.
Yeah, I mean, if countries are sort of going to, obviously there's growing conflict in the world at the moment, so that, that doesn't look like it's going to settle down here for a little bit. That sort of can cause some issues there with sharing resources as well. And then, you've got here, I mean, basically China's saying that their domestic demand is pushing pretty high here. So they're going to be, I think they produce around 65% of the world's graphite, something pretty significant like that. So they're basically saying everyone else is, because they do mine it and also produce their own as well, and a synthetic, I think, graphite as well. Probably not the same sort of quality and stuff there, but I'm basically saying both of those won't be, this article is inferring that they won't be sort of making it available to other countries, so just be domestic only there, while the demand's pretty tight there. And it gives their market a competitive advantage, so I kind of understand that. So just might mean commodities become a lot more important here moving forward. If that sort of starts in one nation and it kicks around, and then you get conflict there, and so it does sort of lend itself to a pretty buoyant maybe commodities and sort of picture there. So yeah, it's definitely worth watching some of those as well. But I mean, you saw that a couple of those graphite plays have had pretty big moves, big volume as well. And I think some of the bigger moves actually came a few days later after the news. Everyone was sort of, is this just a rumor? Or is this just a journalist? And then doing the homework and going, okay, there's no
substance behind this.
We're getting confirmation here. This actually is true. So, so definitely saw some moves there. So that's really interesting. So Paradigm was the other one, which is sort of on number 3 on the list. So it's obviously had a bit of a pop and pull back here, but kind of sort of building here, Chris, a little bit. So I think I mentioned this one last Friday. I thought this was going to be a bit of a signal ring on Friday, but it gapped up and then faded the whole time, so it didn't follow through. And it's done that a few times. It recently had what I considered to be some really good data and some really good news out there, and basically sort of had the stock gapping up and then just brought the selling through. So really, yes, so far we're sort of selling into any good news. So it's just not great. You want to see it sort of see a good news gap up and then follow through. So we're not seeing that so far. But we've now sort of got a low on post, maybe a first high low, potentially now a sort of second high low. Because we've been, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days, and sort of pulling back here and held the low on post. So bit of time used up there, volume sort of maybe drying up a little bit as well. So Paradigm is definitely one to keep an eye on there. Is sort of showing signs there. Patriot Metals is actually another one which has held up pretty well. So number 6 on the list there. So showing a bit of relative strength. So the market which is under a bit of heat there. That's kind of positive for them. The only negative here is we've just got a series of lower highs here. So we haven't broken above the swing high yet. But these are the sort of stocks that we've got to put on our watch list here because they're sort of showing some relative strength early. Now we're looking for like a sort of safe setup here, Chris. So we're looking for some sort of BCP, some sort of base building characteristics, looking for a setup there that's hopefully low risk, sort of high reward sort of setup. And if we see some sort of tight congestion there, we want to work. But at this stage, still a downtrend, but just the fact that it is showing some strength there is should put it on our radar. That oftentimes I saw Matt Bruce. I was talking about follow through days this morning, or it might have been yesterday or something. So he was talking about the Bill O'Neill follow through day, sort of explaining it, and then sort of saying, obviously, it's not the be all and end all. Obviously, every bull market starts with one, but not every one leads to a bull market. And so he was explaining, so conceptualizing. It's actually quite good. But then, he was talking about the NASDAQ where, that had a few false starts and people stopped buying the follow through days because they were failing a little bit. But then, I think all his portfolio managers didn't buy the NASDAQ low. And he was like ringing them all saying, hey,
follow through day.
Follow through day. Why haven't you bought? The last year we've already mixed sense. No, you've got to buy. You don't buy everything. You don't
won't be there for it.
You should just be start to build some of the bigger names there. So he was buying eBay after the the 78% decline in the NASDAQ, and that eBay went up something like 300 or 400% over the next year or two there. I think Bill's big trade. We would have put on like a 20% position for him, which is pretty large. But he wouldn't have gone in straight away. But he just would have built there. So you're looking for the stocks that are holding up here, showing that early signs of strength. So these are sort of things we're sort of looking for here. Right? So TIE was another one there. That's showing relative strength as well here. Sort of just broken above. Probably the volume's just sort of still modest without being fantastic. Like to sort of see some bigger volume there, but is showing some relative strength there. So one just to sort of keep an eye on. Now we got the LEL, so another all in the same space here, Chris, really. So that sort of lithium, another lithium play as well. So we've sort of got lithium graphite plays sort of creeping into the list here. And just showing some relative strength there. So I think that is pretty interesting there. So that's sector to sort of keep an eye on the next sort of week or two. But LEL, again, similar to Patriot, downtrend there, hasn't broken a swing high yet, but he's showing a bit of relative strength there. Probably a little bit impulsive off that low as well. So that's kind of good to see. Just not seeing any big volume here so far. GLN, another lithium name, bit small here. Has broken above the swing lows. That's constructed there. Did pop above the 50-day moving average, which is sort of another sort of sign of something going on. We are actually seeing a bit more volume this one. So a bit more of a cluster here the last probably month or two. We're sort of seeing elevated volumes. So it's definitely sort of something to watch here. This potentially might, maybe it builds a series of high lows first. This is why you sort of just got to put these on your list there. Too risky to be jumping in these right now, but just interesting. They're all showing a bit of relative strength there and sort of building here. So SSR was the silver play. That's had that, I think I mentioned that's a tricky one there. It's sort of one that can move up and down quite a bit. A couple of big lines there sort of selling after that rally there, but it is one that's pretty choppy. There's not too many sort of silver stocks around. MOP I thought was interesting. This is the one that actually Microbial Life Sciences there. That's the one that Sonic Healthcare are about 19% of. So they've just done a raising here because they've made a couple acquisitions as well at 23 cents. I sort of brought the stock back here, but it's interesting coming, is it? It's almost like a big sort of ABC direction there. So definitely one stock that I've got on my watch list just to keep an eye on. But he's sort of showing a bit of strength there, even with the raising as well. So that's pretty, you're getting a raising away here. Pretty
falling market.
Yeah. So it's always good size as well. So OBM, it's a gold producer. So it's actually some pretty decent volume there, starting to sort of pop up. So we've got a few breaking new highs there, but a change of character, set on the 50 down stop there, some volume starting to come in. So that's pretty constructive as well. So sometimes the sort of about the laggards in gold, we probably don't want to play those, but some of the smaller ones, there's something a bit different. You should keep an eye on those as well. So MAY, constructive there, but still volume's pretty small. Another gold plate, sort of Regis Resources there, so sort of building nicely, a bit of volume in there. So that's okay. ERN there. Parenti there, so it's holding pretty tight here, Chris. I really like this one here. So again, this is held. It's gone sort of sideways here while the market's being trolleyed, held nice and tight. So I know plenty of buyback there. Obviously some of the shares here, but yeah, this looks pretty constructive there. And I love that really tight congestion there.
Just some of those coils that we talk about, is it? Where it's
like very very much so. Everything's tightened right up here, so they're all crossing over here. We've had really, really tight price action here for the last 2 weeks there. So, I think that's a very good sign there. That's kind of it from me. The only other ones I noticed there was BRL, which is that's the New Zealand coal. I like the way that's held up as well. Just been really tight in here, like a little bit of ABC and a nice tight there. So, I noticed a few of the coal stocks have been in the thematic the last few weeks. I thought that was okay. And I thought British Petroleum was pretty interesting as well. So we had sort of Santos and Woodside there last week. So that's sort of like a little bit of a false breakdown here as well. So some of those, a bit choppy, some of those sort of oil and gold here, but they have showed some relative strength there, Chris, in the last few weeks. So you've got to respect that. Listen, we should have known that stocks that sort of show up early here do tend to sort of stay there. So that's kind of it. So a bit of a quick one this week, but probably the lithium sector there is pretty interesting. That's sort of putting them on alert there, and maybe this sort of like a lot of this geopolitical tension there is going to add to maybe this commodity sort of story as well about might disrupt sort of supply and demand. If we've got a few wars going on around the world, we saw that with Russia, Ukraine, that end up having an effect on quite a few industries.
There were a lot of commodities affected. Yeah, the grains were affected significantly.
So we get if this lingers on the Middle East here, that could disrupt a lot of more industries as well and commodities, and so it's just interesting dynamic there. So they might sort of was just that sort of article there in Barron's there, just kind of that was sort of that really was along the lines of what sort of North Star sort of was suggesting that will occur on a growing capacity here, and we've already seen it occurring. But that was sort of, it just kind of makes me think, we're like Australia, we're pretty buoyant here. We've got a lot of resources, like commodities, so that'd probably be in demand here. So maybe that's why the Biden's taking elbow for dinner, making sure they shore up our commodities.
Well, that is announced, what was it, a month or 6 weeks ago, that they were extending investment into Australia and broadening those critical minerals. Maybe a viewer's got better insights and more across it, but they were broadening that to include Australian investment, which then sort of paves the way for more US direct investment into Australian-based mines to help export it directly back to the United States and run into that supply chain that we know it was 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago now, Elon Musk was out saying, one of my biggest concerns is not lithium. My biggest concern is the supply of nickel. And he was out there shopping around for nickel mines. He actually put some bins in and then ramped it up, saying how he was shopping around for it. But nonetheless, it really does run into that same narrative, doesn't it? That the resources we have here can become a scarce commodity in the immediate future.
Yeah, no, definitely that. Just going to see if I can show you this chart here, Chris.
So what are we looking at?
I just noticed that sort of Spotify has been, obviously the market's been pretty negative here. This has been holding up quite nicely there. I got the right chart there. I hope that's Spotify.
Go. Maybe while we go on air, we'll just quickly go, because it can depend on which system you punch it into, which how it comes up.
Yeah, that must be it. Yeah. So it's sort of, it's sort of obviously a bit of a pullback there, sort of, adjusting here again. So it's just sort of starting to, maybe punch through a little bit of a B wave here. So just kind of one of those stocks there that's sort of, it's a bit like Zero and maybe 360. In that sort of like Spotify's been running at a loss for quite a long time there. So obviously got a lot of usage. So big usage there. But I think it's only just, I think Spotify now is just starting to turn, getting out of break even and into profit there after many years of sort of losing a lot of money there. So it's sort of one that actually has held up pretty well here, considering how weak the market is there. So that's the sort of stock here that Bill O'Neill might be looking at there, because that is sort of showing relative strength there. So as much as a bit of volume in there, but so far it's actually holding up quite tight here. So, you just need to look at how many people walk around with speakers, listening to different music stuff there and whatever else. So, I know they got audiobooks on there now as well. So, but it's that's the sort of thing you're looking for. You're looking for a stock that sort of held, showed some relative strength there, maybe sort of congesting under the high here. That's the type of thing we've got to look for those sort of setups there. The only one that I did see in Australia here, I thought MGH is actually had held on pretty well here.
I did see that come up on some of the lists actually.
Yeah, I think it was in the list there last week. I think MGH. So but this has done pretty well. Showed a bit of strength there. So definitely one to keep an eye on there. It's sort of just not a market where you're sort of breaking to. This is a 52-week high here, breaking up here, which is sort of, so now it's had a bit of a throwback here, but no volume so far. Just be worth watching this here, because I think once this type of market here, they're going to break there. I don't know if they'll be buying the first break. I know sort of a lot of guys, look, if it's a really, really bullish market, they might chase them there. If it's not a bullish market, they often wait for a throwback and then see if it can hold. So this one could be worth watching here, just see if this holds here. They'll often sort of, this will catch the newbies that are looking for those 52-week highs, and they buy them, and then they throw back, they stop them out, and then they go. So
reload.
Yeah. So just keep away. It's such a choppy, hard market at the moment. It's really, it's quite frustrating. Sort of, you'll have 2 good days. You'll be making some money, and then the third day, you'll give up. First 2 days, it's just like that. And then next day you're down a little bit, and then you're down for the week, and you go, it's started so brightly. But it's that sort of like, that is often, I'd say, every second week for the last few months is like that. It's just sort of been a real sort of churn. And so, the one thing I sort of see from all the great traders talk about at the moment is sort of, being able to sort of sit on your hands, but also just protect the capital too. So, risk management at the moment is just so important. So as much as we're all getting probably chopped up, maybe we're all trading too much. So, if you think about, if you felt like you've sort of traded too much, and I certainly have, is there a mechanism there to sort of maybe reduce your size or reduce your capacity there? So the market's sort of maybe trading below the 50-day moving average. Maybe we can have a rule in our trading there to maybe only have, say, 50-60% of our capital use. And maybe once we've turned back above 50, we can go back to maybe 100% capital. So just something simple like that to sort of just to help ourselves stay out of trouble when the market's in trouble, and then to upscale when the market's starting to get more confident as well. So just, we've gone through a bit of a choppy period. It's probably one of the longest choppy periods I've seen here, but when things look their worst here and the market's had to pull back here, that's where you're so close. At the moment, sort of I see Minervini, Jim Roper, all these guys are getting excited here because they feel like we're getting close here now to a bottom. So, days, weeks, sort of not that far away while these guys are saying here. So we just got to really sort of keep an eye on what's happening here. So, I think better times are ahead, but just got to maintain and discipline until we see those.
They're really good insights, especially how to tweak the investing and the trading so that we're still participating in the market, because right at the start you were talking about the follow through days, and part of that strategy is always being there for them. But if the market does turn, our setups are still triggered, we're still participating in them. But as you said, if the market's not in the right environment to be shooting the lights out, well, maybe put a mechanism in place that tones down the portfolio allocations, how much is at risk. So they're good insights to share. And to that point, I think we say thank you very much, Gary Glover from Novus Capital.
Thanks, Chris.
Gary's mentioned false breaks and strategies playlist on the right-hand side. His portfolio updates is also another playlist on the right-hand side where he's going through how much he's allocating to trades like this that he's putting on for himself and for clients. And on the left is his Twitter handle or his X handle if you would like to follow him there.